So now the animator in our video is going to turn the stick figure into a symbol, but first they need to select the lines they just drew. So let's animate the process of selecting something. So to do that, we need to swap the cursor back to the regular selection arrow. And I'm going to make sure the tip is centered over where the brush cursor was, just like when you switch between those two tools for real. Then he needs to click and drag to select the stick figure. So let's make keyframes to move the cursor to the top left. And then one where it moves to the bottom right. And if we try it out, we see that clicking and dragging makes a box like this. I'm going to screen cap that real quick and then make a new layer to paste that in. We just want to copy the colors from that. First, let's set the compression to lossless. And zoom in. Actually, let's turn off smoothing too. That will help us get the right colors. Then let's just make a rectangle. Then let's select the stroke around the rectangle by double clicking, and then change the color and use the eyedropper to select the blue from the screen cap. Then for the fill, we can't really just select this color because it needs to be slightly transparent. And if we lower the opacity of this gray to say 30%, it's going to end up looking lighter. So let's try making the color darker until it looks right. That might be it. Let's compare it to the real thing. Yeah, that looks pretty much the same. So let's position that up where the arrow is going to start dragging. Then this needs to match the cursor's movement, so let's tween that first. Ease in, out, quad. Oops, I tweened the wrong thing. Let's get rid of this one. We actually need to duplicate this keyframe, so we can put a gap here and remove the tween so there's a pause before the drag starts. Then this is the move that should have the tween. Ease in, out, quad. So now let's move the box back to the start of the drag and get rid of that reference screen cap. Then I'm going to move the box one frame later, and with onion skinning on, I can line up the box so its corners align with the cursors on those two keyframes. So the plan is to use a shape tween to make this expand. So let's set the final keyframe and expand the box to line up with the end of the cursor animation. Let's check the top corner too. I'll extend the onion skinning so I can see it. Make sure it's all still aligned. Then add the shape tween. Now, since these tweens are slightly different lengths, they won't line up exactly, even if we apply the same easing. So I'm just going to convert this frame to a keyframe, and then apply the easing starting then. Now the speed should match up. There, that looks just right. Now I'll add an empty keyframe so the selection completes. And now we need to make the stick figure look like it's selected. Now notice when you select something, it gets outlined with the color of the layer it's on. So based on the layer in the background image, we want to use cyan for our outline color. So let's draw a box with a cyan outline. We can delete the middle, make sure it fits tight to the artwork. Oops, let's put it on the right layer in this empty keyframe. Move it a little closer. I think that looks accurate. Except now that I think about it, in the animation it's not a symbol yet, so the individual parts should each have their own outline when it's selected. So I'm going to need to fix that. We can try just adjusting the selection box and copy and pasting it around the various parts. But if we really want to be accurate, I know a better way. Let's go inside the symbol and put them in here instead. I'm going to make an extra frame on every layer where the selected state will be. Then we can actually select everything, and this is an example of what we want. Before I screen cap it, I'm going to make sure to zoom out to 100% so it will be the right size. Then when I select and take the screenshot and paste it, it will be the right size on the stage. I'll just quick set its bitmap properties. Now I'll just line it up, and we'll trace this to make our selection boxes. We want our cyan line, and I'll use the rectangle tool to add a box to each of these layers. I'll delete the fill in the center. And actually on the rectangle tool, I'll set the fill color to none so we don't have to worry about it. Now we can do all of these easily. Then I'll set the reference layer to guide so it doesn't show up. And back on the main timeline, after the click and drag animation, we'll change this keyframe to frame 55. So now that's looking good. There's also this little anchor point dot in the middle when you select things. But actually that only appears on symbols, so we don't need that quite yet. Now that things are selected, the animator is going to turn it into a symbol. So we want a dialog box to pop up just like this one when we create a symbol. A lot goes into animating a dialog box, so let's look at that in the next video.